In this video, we will discuss what are real numbers. You probably must have heard this term real numbers. But what are real numbers and what do they actually mean? Let's understand that in this lesson. In order to understand real numbers, let's first consider a number line. We know that on the number line, at the very middle, we have 0, and to the right, we have positive numbers like 1, 2, 3, and so on. And to the left, we have negative numbers like -1, -2, -3, and so on. Now, if you can represent any number on the number line, that number can be called a real number. Let's take some examples here. Can I represent the number 2 or the integer 2 on the number line? Yes, of course, here it is. So yes, 2 is a real number. Now, can I represent -3 on the number line? Yes, I can see -3 is here. So -3 is also a real number. Okay, now let's say I want to consider some fractional numbers. Let's say 0.5. Can I represent 0.5 on the number line? Yes, 0.5 will be somewhere here in between 0 and 1. So this also can be found or it can be represented on a number line. So this is also a real number. All right, now let me take another example. What about root 2? What is the value of root 2? We know that the value of root 2 is 1.4 and some sequence of digits that goes to infinity. So can I represent this on the number line? So the answer to this is yes, this can be there on the number line, but I cannot precisely tell where it is. It may be somewhere here, let's say, or somewhere over there, but we cannot precisely tell it. But yes, it does exist on the number line. So this is also a real number. Okay, so we see that there are two different types of numbers that we are coming across. So this whole family of real numbers, they can be considered into two different branches. And what are those branches? Those branches are known as rational numbers and irrational numbers. All right, now what do we mean by rational numbers? Rational numbers are the numbers that can be represented as a fraction. So, if we can represent any number as a fraction or as a ratio of two numbers, then that is known as a rational number. So, for example, we said 2 is a real number. Now, 2 can be represented as 2 by 1. So, 2 is a rational number. Now, we talked about 0.5 here. 0.5 can be written as 1 by 2. So this is also a rational number. So any number that you can represent as a fraction, that is known as a rational number. They can be integers and they can also be decimal numbers. Now what are irrational numbers now? Now irrational numbers are numbers like root 2 that we just saw before. Now root 2 cannot be represented as fraction of two numbers. Why? Let's see. What is the actual value of root 2? If I take a calculator here and if I say root 2, you see this is the value that the calculator shows. 1.4142 and it just goes on like that. And if you look at this digits that follow after the decimal, you can see that it does not follow any particular sequence. It is not repeating or it is not following any sequence or pattern. And this is not the only digits that are there. This is the limit to which my calculator can display, but this just goes on to infinity. Now, these kind of numbers are known as irrational numbers because I cannot represent this as the fraction or the ratio of two numbers. Now another example is pi. So if I take the value of pi, you see pi also is like 3.1459 and it goes on like that. So this is also an irrational number. So root 2, pi, these are known as irrational numbers. So we said that real numbers are there. So in real numbers, we have rational and irrational numbers. So rational numbers are the ones that can be represented as fractions, and irrational numbers are the ones that cannot be represented as fractions. So in rational numbers, we also have our integers, which means the numbers without decimals, like -1, -2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And also we have whole numbers. Whole numbers are the numbers which starts from 0 and it goes to infinity without having the negative numbers. And also we have natural numbers. Natural numbers are the numbers that start from 1, not 0, and goes to infinity. All these are rational numbers, and all these are also real numbers. Okay, now we talked about real numbers. Now, what is the opposite of real numbers? The opposite of real numbers are known as imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers. Now, what are imaginary numbers? Imaginary numbers are numbers like the root of negative numbers. Like, for example, what is the square root of -1? So we know that we cannot actually have the square root of a negative number, because if you square any two negative numbers, the result is always positive. So what will be the square root of a negative number? So these kind of numbers are known as imaginary numbers, and this is represented by I. So if I say what is root over -2, so we can say it is 2i, because root over -1 is represented as I. So we will come to that in a different video, but here our main focus was on real numbers. So real numbers are the numbers which can be represented on a number line, and they are divided into two categories, rational and irrational. So rational numbers are the ones that can be represented as fractions, and irrational numbers are the numbers that cannot be represented as fractions. So I hope this was clear to you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.